All right, we're live, guys.
How we doing?
What's going on, Paul?
Not much. Can't complain.
So as you guys can see, we have Paul Linn live in the studio. Paul coming in off a fresh win at the Arnold Classic this weekend in the 198 class. I don't know, you want to start there? We want to talk about some background, Gobby?
I'm good. Paul's the hot topic. Let's start with Arnold.
All right. What are your thoughts, Paul? What's the summary? What do you think of Arnold's?
I mean, it was an amazing event. This is my second year going. And I think Denise forgot I was there last year. You know, first year.
She did.
But yeah, it was a stat class, especially in supers. So yeah, it was awesome. I mean, a little disappointed Craig and Brent Rackers couldn't make it, some of the other guys, but nonetheless, it was top notch as always.
Yeah, I mean, you would have beat their asses anyway, so I guess it doesn't really matter. Save them some money.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure he would have beat Craig. They have loose reffing there, and Craig can keep his elbow nice and high, 4 inches high.
I mean, I didn't have any. I mean, I don't know. I rewatched everything off of Alex's stuff. I thought this year was pretty clean. Some of the obviously Leonard's table was spot on. I didn't have any real complaints on my matches. I didn't get to review everything yet, but
yeah. I looked at your two matches with Dan. It was clean. It was pretty clean.
You're right.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Dan's usually pretty clean, but I guess that match probably went about as I expected. I mean, I kind of told you that I thought you could win if you did a couple things. So personally, I wasn't surprised by the performance.
I screwed up the first match too. I saw some of your posts and everything. I got like 30 text messages like right away, like, what were you doing with your wrist dump? The plan my wrist, and so I get up to the table and I black out and everything. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna raise my wrist late, and then just didn't do it, and he got to go. But yeah, he's a beast.
Yeah. I was kind of surprised how much, once you gained your side of the table, how much he fought you off. It went the way I thought it would go, but I thought once you went to your side, his defensive side pressure would fail fairly quick, and it didn't.
Right.
He has more of a balanced strength than I thought he did. Kudos to him because he fought you off pretty strong.
Right. I felt really committed pronating pressure through his thumb pad.
Oh yeah.
And crazy leaning back pressure. So it was like taking everything I had to keep the hands in the middle of the table, or even and for a portion of the match, I think we were on his side. So I think it took away a little bit. I couldn't really gain enough cup to access any down. He was just pronating through his thumb pad.
Yeah, definitely a hard guy to hook.
Right. Yeah, he's all pronation and bicep. I mean, those are his kind of main strengths. Well, in his hand,
right.
His hand, pronation, and his bicep. I've never really considered him a big side pressure guy. I think it's really in the hand and his pronation.
Yeah,
I felt a ton of back pressure, and one of the things I think to help prepare is, I train with Dave Morocco, and Dave pulls a ton of back pressure. So a lot of times, like in practice, I'm getting a whole lot of that, a ton of back pressure and a ton of pronation, to the point where it's almost impossible to pin until you wear it. So, I mean, it was very, very similar to training with Dave. So,
yeah. Hey, before we forget, Joseph also went to the Arnold Classic. So, Joseph, go ahead and give us an update. How'd you do?
9th place, 10th.
I got Jeff Hale first round, and I laid down to him, and then I pulled a guy. I don't even know his name. I guess I didn't look at the brackets too seriously, and then
I know that guy. The guy you beat in the second match, I did research. He's from Illinois. He's 61. His name is Bob. It was his first tournament. But he's been training for a while.
Why didn't you go?
I've been there before.
Oh, okay.
It's an 18-hour drive.
Okay. Oh, okay.
You don't get to criticize me until you win.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Second guy I pulled was Anton. I don't know where he was from. He wasn't from the States. And beat him, and then I pulled Ivan, who ended up taking third place. He beat Vazgen and lost to Jeff and Mendelgas. So I got 6th or whatever the heck. I wouldn't have made it to day 2 if they had ran the last match, but we ran out of time. And I was kind of bummed because if they had ran the last match, I'd have got beat. And I could have went to the exhibition arm wrestling and smashed people with my left arm, but I didn't get to. You would have been there, Chris, out of that respect, just like everyone else.
Yeah, you don't get to criticize me until you win one pro event. Then you can criticize me. Win one.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
Coming from the guy who said that Michigan was a high-level amateur event, but you brag about winning it.
I didn't brag. I wasn't the one that bragged. You're the one.
All right, back to Paul. Hey,
Joe, you
Paul,
didn't get any.
What's your sports background?
Say it again. I'm sorry.
What's your sports background?
Football background primarily, as a kid. And I listened to you guys' whole episode with Scott. That was incredible. That got me through my day today. So I played football my whole life, and I know he comes from a football background. And Herm, I heard you say you played guard at 185, and believe it or not, I was in the same boat my senior year. I ran 40 time and everything, but we had low numbers. So I had to do the same, middle linebacker and guard. And I actually enjoyed guard probably more than middle linebacker that year. Yeah. But, yeah, I come from a football background. I played my college ball at Bloomsburg University, and then went on to play overseas a little bit, in Italy. So
what did you play in what position did you play in college?
Middle linebacker.
And how big were you then?
Same height as I am now, but I was about 230 then. So I'm definitely not physical peak now as far as strength. I was for that.
You said you were stronger back then?
Oh yeah, for sure. At 230, I haven't seen 230 in probably 10 years. I mean, I would say I'm in overall better physical shape now, maybe as far as like being lean, but back then I was much stronger.
What'd your powerlifting numbers look like? I mean, what's your peak look like?
Bench wise, I think I hit 345 or 445. I don't even remember what I squatted. High fives and deads over 6, but I never competed or anything like that. So It was one of those deals where, we tested out 225 rep out in college. I did 36. Nothing crazy. I was never like over the top gifted with strength. I had to earn all of it. So it was like I came in with like above average athleticism, but nothing crazy to write home about, and above average strength. And once again, nothing world beater wise. I was never the strongest guy on the team. So I always had to really, really grind. I struggled upper body. My lower body was always dominant. I had a good power clean. I was explosive. I had a pretty good vertical. It's a 37-inch vertical was probably my headlining number, but power clean and vertical was always good, but as far as the upper body strength, I always had to grind at it. I had to double up on chest for years and years and years to get into the mid fours.
Well, I mean, if you don't have world beater strength and you're where you're at, I mean, I must be a damn bum.
Yeah, right. I know your numbers right there, Herm. I've talked to you enough. I know you're sandbagging. You're sandbagging.
I'm a runt up here, man.
No way.
Hey, so what did you do in Italy? You actually played American football in Italy?
Yeah, Torino Jaguari. So there's a Euro Bowl over there, so like a Euro tournament, a bunch of different countries involved, France, Germany, and they basically have their own league. Each of them has their league, and then they meet in a Euro tournament. So I was blessed enough to have the opportunity to grab an agent after college. And so basically I did that in correspondence with my master's. So it worked out so that I could go over there for 3 months and then come back and work on my master's. So it was kind of one of those deals where I'm not making a ton of money. It's more like a paid vacation. So, I mean, each team was allowed, I think illegally they were allowed 3 or 4 Americans that didn't have a dual citizenship. So I don't have an Italian background, at least I don't think. But so I had to go over as one of their American slots. The better teams would field like entire teams of Americans. So, and that would be based off of a dual passport. So I wound up going over to Torino. We were 0-10. We were bad. So it was more of a fun vacation type thing for me. After a couple years, they went on to drop down in the leagues. There's several tiers of leagues because they don't do high school football in Italy and a lot of those countries. So basically, they have a juniors, and it's like tiered like A, B, and C. So they dropped down after a couple years.
Nice.
Okay. So let's see, maybe let's get into maybe more details with the Arnold. Did you have any other challenging matches besides Dan Mosier?
Well, Quinlan Mendez was in the bracket, and he got tied up with El Sabar, a guy from I can't even Vigeant, or I can't remember. I know he placed pretty well. I think he might have won Masters and Worlds in the 198s. I was getting the scoop from other people, but Quinlan got tied up in a match real early where they wound up in a stretched out King's move style thing, and I think that took a lot off of both of them and kind of wound up. It kind of wound up watering down the playing field. So I think the second time they met in the second day, I believe El Sabar wound up beating Quinlan. So I had him for my last match or second to last match. And I had Goga, but Goga was blown up by the time I got to him. So I think I had 9 matches, but most other than Dan, they all ended fairly quickly.
How was it on the second day? I've never personally pulled a 2-day event with the same arm. I mean, was that difficult?
That's like well, I cut a good enough amount of weight, and I didn't bring my scale. Like, I should have brought my scale, but I would have said the first day I was probably about 210, 212. The second day I was carb loaded up, and I had a bunch of water in me, and I felt great at like 215. So, I mean, after the previous year when I had that long match with Craig, I was thinking the next day I was going to feel bad. I didn't make it to the next day that year. But on the side table pulling afterwards, I felt great the next day. I've heard other people say that it's tough, and that you get latent soreness. I felt way better the second day, but that's just me personally.
Yeah. What about you, Erlich?
It was the first time I'd ever done an event, 2-day pulling. I've pulled 2 days in a row before, but that's different. This was weird. The warm-up day 2, I almost feel like I warmed up too much, and I didn't even warm up that much, but I warmed up with Mindaugas, and I had like kind of inside elbow pain before the match even started. I was going into it knowing that it was either going to be quick or, I mean, I might be able to stop the guy, but I watched his matches. He was fucking crushing everyone. And then he pinned Vazgen pretty convincingly too. So I felt pretty good. I mean, it was different though. Definitely different. Not used to it.
You ever do any multi-day events, Gobby?
Well, I've done the Worlds a couple of times, but that's not with the same arm. I've done 3 consecutive practices in a row. I've done stuff like that. And the thing is, for me, you can do it. If you're well conditioned, you could probably compete 3 days in a row. I think you got to warm each time, especially your elbow. I would have to warm up like 20-minute warm up. I'd have to get tons of blood in my elbow so the inflammation is minimized. But it can be done. I think like Todd Hutchings once said, he can. Anytime he wants, he could probably hit his 1 rep max. He'd have to warm up so damn much. I think it's just the key is warming up. If you don't want to do that cold. And people that have more joint issues, like Michael Todd, that next day is a nightmare for him because his elbow's blown up. So people that are more joint related pullers, it's harder. Those that are more, levered pullers, leverage pullers, top rollers, I think are a little bit easier. But the more you have to pull with your joints, the more you have to warm them up when they're cold. It's harder to get blood in them.
Right.
So,
I think.
Go ahead, Paul.
You're spot on that, Chris, because I think the second day I was way more in tune with that.
Yeah,
I spent way more time. I warmed up a ton, got a ton of blood in there. I think the first day you're in such a hurry and your brain going and everything that you tend to forget to do that. Yeah. I mean, I think I was hypersensitive to it, and I felt better because of it.
Yeah. Now, if they did a 1-day event, then a break. So if you had a 24-hour break, like let's say you competed 1 day, you had a full day off, then you competed, that would be harder on the arm because then your body's going into a cool down process. But I think 24 hours later, your body's still kind of, it can warm back up fairly quick.
Right.
And so, Paul, is this your biggest victory?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, we've talked about this before as far as like tournament pulling and like getting wins on people, like what your real focus is and everything. I mean, I've gotten some wins throughout my time, but as far as this big of a tournament by far, for sure.
Yeah, it's big.
So
yeah, I wasn't expecting to win. There was no me coming in there expecting to win. I was expecting to see Craig and Brent, and honestly, in the back of my mind was just hoping to kind of pair up with one of those two guys, because those were the guys that beat me last year. The whole goal was just to make it to the second day. Anything else beyond that was going to be bonus. So
yeah.
I'm get there.
I think it's a very hard tournament to go and engage unless you're a complete tier above everyone else, only because the time you're rushed. And the reffing is sometimes, I don't want to say it's terrible, but it's definitely suspect at times. So, I mean, you take into consideration those two things. And to guarantee, if you're certain to be a top 2 or in the finals, you have to be supremely confident and be like a half a tier above your whole competition. And that's generally not the case at a big tournament like that. So I think there's a lot of what's interesting to watch as a spectator of that event is even if someone's favored, so many things can happen where he's, dropped out of the top 4. So I think it's a pretty cool tournament when it comes to establishing predictions and who's the favorite and who's not.
Right. It's incredible how fast they move, they're on a time crunch, but if you get into a match that lasts 10 seconds, that could cost you your tournament, because you might be up in 60, 70. Yeah. You're right. So, and then they're rushing you through and they'll foul you on the setup. So, and then the brackets mean everything. I think, I think Dan, as far as the way the numbers draw, I thought it was, and I don't even understand this stuff completely, but I thought you draw a lower number, you're supposed to usually wind up having a better. I don't know how it works, but anyway, me, Dan, and Quinlan wound up right at the top of the bracket, and I think I had an extra match somehow too.
Yeah. I think the Arnold's a tournament like that where they're trying to sell the sport to the spectators. They should seed that tournament. Certain tournaments should be seeded. You need the two top guys on opposite sides of the bracket, because you want the best match ultimately in your finals where people are off their ass and watching the match. You don't want you getting a terrible draw and being dropping out in the preliminaries, and then Dan pulling a guy who got a lucky draw that doesn't help the sport. So I think maybe seeding a tournament like that is not the worst idea in the world.
Right, that's a good point. I think that's and I mean, the real question is when do you do that? Because I think what's so appealing with tournament pulling is the luck of the draw. You got a little bit of roulette in there too, and I like that.
Sure. Yeah,
I honestly, personally, I mean, I don't know if I'm better suited for super matches or not, but I know that I enjoy the tournament. I enjoy the not knowing in a way. And then when you find you're in a crunch time to try and figure out who you have next and whatever else, I like that anxiety a little bit.
Well, it's exciting. It's exciting too, right? And that's why some of the top guys like Todd and Devon, they don't really like it, because a super match they can totally analyze and break down and control many variables. But in a 12, 13, 28 men in the supers for Arnold's, I mean, how do you plan for 28 man class? You just have to basically close your eyes and hit your move every time and hope for the best. It is tough to gauge. That is tough. It is very challenging.
Yeah. Speaking of supers, so Marcio won, and I think Robbie Burnett got second.
Yeah, he did. Yep. He did. I think what did it come down to, Joe? I think him and Don Underwood had the match leading into that, and Don fouled twice. But I think Robbie
fouled two elbow fouls.
Robbie stopped him, I believe, in a hook.
Match, it went right to a hook on the go. I was just watching.
Yeah, so I think Robbie beat Mirtale Aslanov, then Robbie beat Don, then Robbie had Marcio. So that's a hell of a draw, right? So I was just telling Robbie maybe a couple months ago that he should call out Marcio, and my comment was that I thought he could beat him, specifically because his hand is so strong, and because Marcio tends to foul a lot. So it's kind of interesting that they actually made it to the finals together, and we actually were able to see that match. But I've had people talking shit behind my back about losing to Robbie at local tournaments, and what they don't realize is that Robbie has been a top 10 super heavyweight in the country off and on, probably for 10 years, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. If you'd make a list of the top most underrated pullers in the last 5-10 years, Robbie Burnett would be on my list. He's always kind of under the radar, and he doesn't hit that. He doesn't leave the state that much. He doesn't leave Louisiana that much, but he's definitely underrated. His right arm is an elite arm. It is a good arm.
The guy's a stud. And he's a hell of he's a hell of a nice guy. I talked to him quite a bit. He was super supportive. He's just a great dude. And then he turned up for sure. Marcio was just, he was like firing on all cylinders though. Timing, and he looked pretty big. I know Leonard talked about putting maybe a 242 into the Arnold down the road. And then he made a joke about, well, Marcio ain't even going. I said, that'd be a good spot for Marcio, right? And he was like, Marcio couldn't make that weight.
They actually announced it. It's official. The 242 is happening
next year. Yeah.
That's going to change a lot of things. There you go, Herm. You won't even have to cut, Herm.
How much did Marcio weigh?
I have no idea. I didn't get it out of Leonard. He just said he wasn't close to 242. That's all.
Yeah. I think the heaviest I've seen him reported was maybe 250 or 255 for zinc.
Mm-hmm.
Herman, did you ever pull the Arnold?
No. Nope.
Any reason?
I have an issue with qualifying for events that don't really cover your costs. And
I got you.
And then the whole right arm only thing. I mean,
right.
I'm usually trying to pull 4, 5, 6 classes.
Right.
So I don't know.
Let me ask you this: at what point in time is it like I've heard different rationales on this. At what point in time do you want to not pull multiple classes? Is there a point in your career where you say, like, you know what, I'm not multi-classing anymore?
When I think of tournaments that I can go to, that aren't like locked down due to contracts or league stuff. I mean, the only tournament that I wouldn't multi-class is Lottie.
So how long can you sustain that? Like, is it because you feel good and you feel healthy, or is it like one of those deals? I know I listen to a lot of, Todd Hutchings about age and how many tournaments you should pull and if you should Is it an age thing, or you're just feeling good, or what's the motivation behind multi-class, and when does it end?
Everything outside of a Zloty or a Worlds is basically a practice event. Doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to go through and walk through that event, because I can't beat the Robbie Burnett's and that sort of thing. But I need as many matches as possible, because I don't compete as much. When I actually do go somewhere, I need more of those game day situations under my belt.
Right.
In particular, especially for local events, I mean, I need to be pulling supers at minimum, right?
Right.
So just to go pull a 220 class or 242 class locally, that doesn't really get me anywhere. So I'll tend to multi-class, or if I'm borderline, but I'm overweight, I won't drop the 2 pounds and I'll just pull supers or something like that.
Right. Right. That makes sense.
So for me, it's really just getting those repetitions in.
Right.
Yeah, and it's fun. It makes things a little more interesting. You know what I mean? You get into a war in one class, and now all of a sudden you're down a couple notches, and then the 2 or 3 guys you were going to pull that you might have steamrolled just became some of your most fun matches you've probably ever had, because all of a sudden it's a challenge. So I think those situations usually turn out to be a lot more fun than had I gone in peaked out for a 220 class at a local event.
Yeah. Right. I think the answer to that question is money and competition. If there was a huge cash tournament within an hour, Herman, and you had, $1,000 for first place, and a lot of big guys were going, you're not pulling multiple classes. You're going to save you're going to try to, win first place. You're not going to pull multiple classes.
I've multi-classed at events with $800 first places, even with Alan Ford in my weight class.
And how'd you finish?
A second, a first, and maybe a couple seconds or something like that. So I took a hit.
Yeah. Okay.
But I mean, for me, it's the challenge. The money does matter. So if you told me it was like $5,000, and I've got Todd in my class and Rob Vigeant in my class, then I probably need to focus and test myself against those guys and not risk it on some mid-range super heavyweight.
Yeah.
But those events are so few and far in between.
Right.
I mean, we'll never get us in the same room.
No.
For a tournament style event. So it's kind of unfortunate, but short of that scenario, I mean, everything's practice.
Yep. Yeah, makes sense. And I said Robbie's from Louisiana. I think Robbie's from Texas. I fucked up on that one. He's from Texas, I think.
Yeah, rural Texas or something like that. What did you guys think of the 176 class?
fucking gray. I would have lost my fucking house on that bet. Well, it wasn't a huge class. Of all the classes, I think it might have been the weakest. Even the 54s was strong. I mean, you had 3 elite pullers at least in that class. The 76 was kind of light, but I still wouldn't have had him. Tons of respect and kudos to that guy for even beating a 176 Bill Logston, because I mean, that was a legit win for him. That's great. You know, he's been pulling a long time, and I think he's damn near. He's got to be close to 50. But for him, that was a big win.
Who'd you have picked, Gobby?
I didn't go through the whole list, but when I basically saw the top names, I had Bill at 176 right-handed. I had Bill winning that. Yeah.
I mean, I didn't see a list early on, so I didn't have a prediction. But if you told me that Varesh from Armenia was going to be in the class, I would have said he would have smoked everybody.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I heard he had shoulder issues or whatever, but that's who I would have leaned to easy.
Yeah. I could tell you one thing though. I saw footage afterwards, and it was footage of who's the Latvian? I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he was against Jeff, and he beat him first time, and then the second time he let Jeff get in a hook, and he just kept flopping his wrist in and out, and it actually looked like it hurt Jeff. And I'm thinking, how fucking elite is that guy? Like, I know he's a world champion, but that is a special thing to see when you take another elite puller and just toy with his wrist to the point where it almost looks like you injured the guy's wrist. That dude is fucking incredible. Well, he had a super match with Engen a month ago. I mean, he has wins on Engen. That to me was that was the biggest eye opener of the tournament. That with Paul winning, I mean, that was just impressive as hell. You know, Marcio was predictable. Yes, Gray is a big win, but let's face it. I mean, great win for him, but it wasn't the strongest class. I think he got a little bit of luck on the draw as well. Like the Armenian must have got tired at one point. But I thought what that 154 cat did from Europe was just that's just insane.
Yeah, in 76, and I forget the guy's name from Utah that beat the Armenian dude. Took his hand and Armenian. Yeah, and that was the first time I had met him. That was incredible. And then Bill Logsdon wound up in a war early on. But kudos to Greg Gray though. I mean, he looked absolutely dominant. Nobody tested. Yeah. No one even tested.
And when he got Bill in the strap, it was done, right? It was gone. Like, he just crushed him. That was, man. That was
for Greg, the greatest story of overcoming in the sport is Greg overcoming his training videos.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't to think that he's the guy we've criticized the most, and now he's he has now a number 1 place Arnold trophy in his showcase. It's like, that's like, well, fuck, man.
Yeah, I mean, he's like more elite than we are.
Well, I mean, he could laugh at us now, but I mean, or maybe he just took our criticism and changed what he was doing. I don't know. Or there's a lot of things, a lot of variables. But
wait, did we make Greg Gray?
I don't know. You'd have to ask him if he adjusted his training based on our critique. But I can say one thing.
I mean, did we shame him into success?
If we did, kudos, man. Like, yeah. Trolling has its advantages, right? Trolling does have a benefit.
That's what we'll do. We'll sell a training program. Gobby and I will just send you insulting messages on a daily basis.
Yeah. With the promise that you're either gonna become an elite champion or commit suicide, one of the two, but nothing in the middle. We promise one of the two.
Gobby, you mentioned the 154s. Mindaugas won that class easily.
Yeah.
And I guess I'll pose the question to all of you guys. So Gobby said, how elite is Mindaugas if he can take another elite guy's hand like that? But again, Jeff is great here.
Yeah.
Is truly elite.
Yeah.
Is our class truly elite?
Yeah. And Mindaugas lost to Engen, who's above 40. So I think Jeff is he is an elite arm wrestler in North America. Top 5, 6, 165 guy, no doubt 154, maybe even higher depending on if it's a 65 or a 54. A lot of those guys can't make 54, but Jeff's the type of guy that can go to the Zloty and do fairly well, but he could also get 0-2, right? Vazkin's a stud here, but he can go 0-2 at Zloty. So they are elite here, but I'm not sure if they're 4s on a world level. They're definitely a 4 in North America, but they're going up against 5s. Like, these guys are Mindaugas and Engen are fucking, they're arguably, well, they're 5s. What do you want? World-class arm wrestlers. They've won worlds. That's a 5. Arguably 5.
Jeff looked small, and I talked to him a little bit, and he said he was toying with like a vegan vegetarian style diet. Yeah. So I don't know how much he really. He didn't look big on the second day either. Like
Nope.
it didn't look like there was a whole lot of water cut there.
Here's what's messed up. Like, he looks terrible against the Latvian. So you're thinking, well, maybe it's diet, maybe he's just underweight.
Thing.
Oh, sorry. But then he dusts Vazkin, Vazkin, who's usually peaks. Vazkin usually peaks for Arnold fairly well. He really takes Arnold serious. So it's like, holy shit. So if he smoked Vazkin and this guy smoked Hale, how good is this guy? And what's the story with Hale? Like, it's kind of hard to gauge the because of the dynamics that happened between those three. What's what? Maybe Vazkin just came in terrible shape, maybe with an injury, and he got beat by a weakened Hale, and then Hale got slapped by that guy. I don't know, but it was definitely shocking.
I got after pull footage of those guys. Jeff and Mindaugas went right behind the curtain right away and after pulled. I videotaped it. I asked him if I could, but I don't know if I'm going to post it because, yeah.
Well, anyone knows how that goes. Anyone can tell you how that goes. Jeff goes where he wants, and this guy pops him.
You wouldn't expect it. You just, oh man, it's crazy. You wouldn't expect it. You would think that there's a distinction, but man, it's a big difference. It was crazy. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to post it.
I heard I didn't get to stick around for the after pool. I went to the side table a little bit, but then we had to head home. But I heard forget what the guy's from, the guy who you would have thought would have been the favorite in '76 from Armenia. Yeah, I heard he like literally left-handed, like untouchable by anyone in the hotel, regardless of like
wow,
move him from center. Like Alex Busy Isakov was filming and everything, and he said he stopped at my house on the way home and said literally couldn't even crack his pinky.
Nothing.
Yeah, he also said something about him being like a powerlifting champion over there too, and benching into the fours at 170.
Wow.
So,
it was crazy. I didn't get footage of that, but I got pictures of it. He essentially dad moved everyone inside the room. I'm not kidding you, dude. Everyone.
Did he pull any heavier guys?
I think the heaviest dude there would have been probably Al. Well, no, Bill was there, but I mean Alex. I'm sure Bill was heavier than Alex by that time.
Okay, but these are still lightweights. I mean,
I thought there was heavies.
No, there was no heavies there, but I mean there was probably, I don't know, 6 or 7, 200-pound dudes that, like Bill Logston and Alex, and then there was Jake Houston, a couple other dudes, but it was just the way he was doing it, really. Like, there was no moving him. Like, when you pull a guy and you can like feel some movement, there's rarely a dude in the room that can like literally stonewall everyone's center table and then slide all the way down their arm, move down to like an inch from the table, and then just still do the same thing to everyone in the room, like consecutively.
I think Goldberg was doing that to people after Arnold's when he went a couple years ago.
Yeah, I wasn't there, but I assume it was like the same style, just like, what the fuck?
All right, you guys want to talk maybe some WAL?
Sure,
yeah, let's do it.
So WAL 501 matches were released. I don't have the list in front of me, but let's see. Let's start with Craig and Rob. What do you think, Paul? Have you pulled both of them?
I have practiced with Rob. I have never pulled him, so I'm not necessarily qualified to say. And obviously, I can remember back to the match they had most recently, where Craig won 3-0, I believe. But there were some questionable. I know there were some restarts and some elbow fouls. I don't know. That one is such a toss-up to me. I know Craig's been looking real strong. I've been at the tournaments that I've seen him at recently. I think he wound up pulling Dan and beating him very, very easily. But from what I'm hearing from everybody that I'm talking to, is that Rob is in peak form. So, and I know he's definitely has a chip on his shoulder from that last match. So, I mean, this one's a tough call. My gut says Rob wins just because of learning from the last match, and not that the reffing is going to be any stricter, but just in better form. I think that match was really when Rob was turning back on up in New England when he pulled Craig last.
Yeah. Now, when did you practice with Rob? Was that recent?
That was after WAL last year at Baltimore.
Okay. How'd that go? Could you do anything anywhere with him? I mean,
yeah, I mean, he had been drinking the whole day, so I can't really call it. But no, I felt okay. I mean, I didn't feel outclassed by any means. So, I mean, obviously a ready go. He's a savvy puller, on a ready go, and with his hand size. But I didn't feel like power wise we were on too much of a different playing field. Obviously, he's trained way up now compared to that time, I'm sure. And plus, he was probably having to bag a little bit. So,
what do you think, Erlich?
I got to take Rob on this one, just based off of the rumors that I've heard of him being in top shape and wanting to just beat Craig after the last one. It is, in my opinion, it is the hardest match to call. It's probably going to be the closest, in my opinion.
So what's your call? What are you saying? 3-2?
Yeah, 3-2, Rob.
Gobby?
I actually don't think it's going to be that close. I think the problem with Rob most of his career has been lack of committal. No one's ever questioned his ceiling or his potential. I think since over the last 6-8 months, or even a year, I think he's since the last WAL card. I think he's so tuned in and committed that I think it's. I'm not going to say he's going to stonewall him, but it's going to be 3-0. The only way it won't be is if Craig's able to pull out like these tremendous crazy fouls, but if the reffing is at least somewhat decent, it's 3-0 Rob with emotion behind it. Like you'll see Rob with a little bit of vinegar behind it too. Rob has a chip on his shoulder. Rob's pissed off. Rob's out to show that he's the best 205, I think. So I don't think of all the matches, I think it's the one I would easily bet on a good 3-0. No worries.
What was your number, Paul?
Number? I mean, I definitely think Craig's getting a win for sure, if not two. I think. A nice guy, Paul? What's that?
See, yeah.
Not just being a nice guy.
No, I think the speed and I think Craig's ability to turn him in. I mean,
I think Craig gets 2 quick wins, but they're not they're not wars.
No, I think it's going to be that hit and then that hit into a little bit of back pressure. But I do believe Craig has the ability to turn him in. I mean, obviously depending on load. And if I remember back to the last match, I think it was the second or third match where Rob really kicked out and protected his wrist on one, or protected his pronation on one. I have a feeling he's going to be directly aiming at that right away. But I just think Craig's hit and a little bit of loose reffing and maybe getting away with an early go is going to buy him at least one win.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I even say Rob. Go.
And I think it goes back and forth.
Yeah. I think Rob's focused more on his hook. I don't know. I haven't heard rumors. I don't know any of it, but I believe he's reinforced his hook. And I think he'll go right in, at least one match. He'll go right in there with Craig and hold him and smile at him.
I would love to see that. I would love to see that. I'd love to see a good long hook match.
Yeah, and I would say in the United
States, Facebook if that happens.
And I would say in the U.S., I mean, Rob shouldn't lose to basically anybody. You know what I mean? Like that's the default stance from me, is that Rob should just win.
Right.
Doesn't matter who it is, except for maybe Todd. Like Rod should just kill people. So if he actually is training, I mean, I don't see how.
Every time Rob loses, it's 100% on Rob. It's him, lack of committal, the guy's got a giant hand with an incredibly long, thick bicep head. I mean, and he's got no waist and legs. The guy is built for arm wrestling, and he's not a dummy. It's just a question of when does he decide to commit? Because I don't think I've ever seen an arm wrestler as physically gifted as Rob Vigeant. If you just look from his whole body
he's
stature,
supposed to be our next Brzezinski.
Yeah, but the question has always been the intangibles and stuff like that. And if you ever put it all together, Watch the fuck out. And maybe that's what he's doing. I don't know. But I tend to believe he's more mature now. His party days are over. He's deciding to commit to something. There's a little bit more money maybe funneling in towards him. So I think it's going to be a 3-0 route.
I'm
going
think
3-0 for Rob, and I'm questioning who's making these matches.
Oh, yeah. It's Neil.
I think the Steve Craig really levels that out. And if you look back at, like, you know, Rob lost to Kenny Smith too, and he lost largely on supination, speed with supination. And I think that levels the playing field just a little bit.
Yeah, Rob was doing that. Rob was trying to for a while. Rob was just trying to high hook and roll. He was just trying to evade with this massive bicep and the biggest,
right.
You know, he was always trying to evade, and that was a philosophical error on his part. I think lately his hand's always going to be there. I think now he's going more into it, and he's a much better strap puller than he's ever been. He was notorious for being a very very weak strap puller. I think he's getting back to more a strength fundamental and hook, and then pulling outside from the hook and then moving outwards from the hook. And I just don't think what happened with Kenny was him trying to roll Kenny and Kenny just getting him inside and supinating and going sideways. And Kenny's super strong. I just think now Rob's got it all together and he's not running. How can you run? How could you have that hand in that bicep and be running? Like, I think he's changing it.
Let me ask you this: with his match with Jordan Sill last year,
yeah.
If that goes to the straps every match, if he's not able to pin him outside of the straps, do you think that the outcome would have been different?
I think that's the match that match with Sill is what really is his transition match. That's the match that is going to propel him into a different stratosphere. I actually had Sill winning that. I predicted Sill, and it was very, very, and he dominated them in certain areas.
But if it goes straps, does Rob still win, Gobby?
Now, yes, yeah, now he does. I think he's fixed all that shit. Yeah, but Sill's an awesome puller. Sill's another guy that can come out one day and not look great, and other days come out and just dominate everyone, like just play with everyone. So Sill's a very hard guy to predict as well. He's a hard guy to bet against because he can show phases of brilliance sometimes.
His arm looks so strong in California States.
Yeah, exactly. You know, multiple classes, and I don't think anyone slowed him down. Yeah, he's definitely a stud. Yeah.
So let's talk Devon and Todd Hutchings.
Yeah.
Erlich, you first.
I don't want to, but I have to pick Devon. I just do, based off of his switching to the heavy triples training or whatever. I feel like he's probably tightened up some things that he was lacking in, and I give him the edge. They're so equal, but I have to give the edge to Devon over the span of 5 rounds, is it?
5, yep.
Yeah, so I'll pick Devon to win 3-2. They're going to be probably the biggest grinders, but it's going to be hard to say who wins it. I think it's going to come down to one match, and that's it.
So Herman, you're probably the most qualified to speak on this one with your experience with Todd. But the word that I'm getting is that we are getting the absolute heaviest version of Todd Hutchings this year ever. So,
yeah. So on that note, Paul, I would say that if it was the Todd that I pulled in 2016, it'd be Devon easy. Like, you know what I mean? Like if I could hang with him, then Devon should cream him. Now, this Todd is heavier. He made Marcio look bad. He blew Ron's shoulder out the back of the shoulder girdle. At the same time, Todd's hand is vulnerable. Devon will take his hand.
Right.
And not to mention, you know, when Todd won't be able to hook up on that side pressure. It'll just slide under Devon's arm, under his hand, because Devon's arm is so long that, I mean, I'm the biggest Todd Hutchings fan in the world, but I mean, I don't see this being that close. It might take long because Devon's like a tall King George. You know, he strains with everybody. He's trained with Frank Hurst. He's trained with Stephen Green. So he'll train with Todd, but I don't think this is going to push Devon to his limit, so to speak. Right. So I don't know what the number is. I'd say 3-0. Well, let me take it back. It'll be 3-2 because Devon will make it a show because this is World Arm Wrestling.
Yeah. I tend to agree. I'm going to be rooting hard for Todd because I just like his style, like his hook style, side pressure. I like everything about how Todd arm wrestles, like as a whole. But Devon coming off the loss and readjusting his training and refocusing, I just don't see him as the type of dude who's going to come into his bread and butter in WAL and not turn up. And I like her. I think he has the ability to 3-0 based off of his tools, lever length, and hand, and just being able to stay out of Todd's power. But I don't think he will. I think it'll wind up looking a lot more interesting. But I'm going to be rooting for Todd for sure. I like Devon, but I'm rooting for Todd for sure.
All right, Gobby.
Oh, the idea that 4 men can agree with one thing absolutely sickens me to the point of so. But I'll tell you one thing. The more I think about this, I posted a couple days ago and I had Devon winning. The more I think about this, and the more they're both older athletes, and Todd's older. The older they get, Devon reverts more to evading. The older Todd gets, he reverts more to the inside power game. Devon will take the hand in the strap. Devon will have leverage. Devon will have all that. I think if I had to bet, I can see Todd losing his wrist and coming sideways on Devon. I can see Todd grinding the shit out of this match. I think Devon's lost a little bit of that side grind game. He went to more of an evading game, and Todd totally committing to losing the wrist and just putting everything into his elbow and going sideways. And if he comes in at 240 plus, man, I'll fucking bet on Todd. I'll fucking do it. I'll pick Todd. Yeah,
I got a question. What's stronger, Todd's side pressure?
Todd's side pressure.
Or Jerry's press?
Jerry's press.
Yeah. Devon has a very long lever. I can see Todd dumping his wrist, losing his wrist in the strap, and outwilling Devon. I think he can outwill Devon. And yes, you make a good argument. You all make strong arguments. Even the amateur guy makes a strong argument. I'm just not going to do it. And I'm not just going to take Todd to be spiteful. I'll bet on Todd. If anyone out there wants to bet, I'll bet on Todd. I'll bet $5. Yeah, I will not go against a 50-year-old who's committed to going inside with every breath of his being, despite injury and age. And I'm just not betting against that guy. I'll bet against the evader. I will never bet against Todd, just on principle alone. He's whatever. He's what.
Too.
What's that?
If somebody gives me some odds, I'll bet on Todd too for sure. That's where I wanted to go.
Straight odds. So I'll go straight odds. I just think Todd is what we all need to. He is the standard of what all men should adhere to in life, not just arm wrestling. And I think I will not bet against that man in a street fight or a fucking arm wrestling match versus a tall, lanky guy. I just won't do it. Fuck it.
Well, Devon's media team is already doing damage control.
Yeah, do it. Todd 3-2 coming out the back end, outgrinding Devon, and Devon will lose 3 consecutive super matches for the first time in the history of his career. Todd 3-2, and Devon jumps on a cycle and learns to hook again. Fuck it,
Hey, so that would be interesting. So we've already declared that Devon is no longer top 10 either hand in the world.
He's not.
If Devon can't beat Todd Hutchings, what does that say?
Well, yes and no, but I think it's not so much Devon, not fucking Todd, man. I mean, he was an underdog against Marcio. He's a perennial underdog. Well, especially when they give him these guys, like I think he was a favorite towards Marcio. He tore Ron Bath's shoulder or pec or what it was. Shoulder. I mean, the dude's 50. He's stout. He has a failing in his wrist. He doesn't have a great wrist. His wrist can go back. And Devon, of course, will feed off that. And Devon's smiling and laughing right now. I don't give a shit. There's only so much pad you can run back to, and Todd will outwill it. And Todd will win 3-2. Yeah. Mark my word.
All right, do you guys know the other WAL 501 matches?
Doug Erlich, Tony Kitowski.
That's a good one. That's huge.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll say this. I remember Doug calling everybody out at 176 for $1,000. No one stepped up. No one said anything. In particular, all the 176 and 165 guys said absolutely nothing, right? And then Tony made some video shortly after calling out 176 guys. Why wouldn't he have just put the money up and fought Doug then?
Because he's
kind of a weird call-out video.
Because he's not confident. He's not confident.
No, I think it was all for the WAL type stuff is what I think it was for.
Again,
I think Tony didn't want the match, and he only made the video because Kaplan told him to make the video.
That's 100% right.
Boom.
That could be. That could be.
I think it's more along the lines of these matches aren't guaranteed for these guys. So if they can generate a little bit of hype and get back some stuff, like I don't think Steve Kaplan's calling guys and saying, "Hey, make a video," or like do this to get some. I think guys are lobbying for their paycheck. So I think that was just kind of like reaching out, like, "Hey, I'm coming back down in weight and I want matches." Now, how do you think that's going to go? And I think the biggest factors are Doug, I think, is sitting at a lower weight and is not going to have to cut as far. And then where's the catch weight? I think the catch weight's 170 or 175.
I think it's 175 this time. But I don't know.
Who does that favor?
It favors Doug. It favors Doug.
Walking 185 right now is what I've heard.
It favors Doug.
That's what I thought. That was what I was leaning to. I've never pulled Tony and I've never pulled Doug, so I'm not really qualified to say. I think I've talked with Doug that I know I'm rooting for him.
Yeah, I think Tony's such a well-balanced puller, so versatile. But when I'm not sure, and he's not going to take Doug's hand. Doug's fairly strong in the hand as well. When I'm not sure, I usually tend to go towards the man with the stronger arm, unless he's got a huge deficiency somewhere else. So I like Doug. I think Tony's a little bit too hand balanced. And when it will go to strap, it will go to arm. And I think Doug just has too much. But it's not going to be I can see it going 3-0, but most likely it's so hard to, once you make a prediction to go 3-1, 3-2. I mean, there's so many factors, especially with that shitty reffing. So who knows? But I have Doug. Yeah, Doug's just stronger by a slight margin, the stronger man.
Gobby, when you say that Tony won't take Doug's hand, are you saying that it's going to the hook?
Well, I think Tony's going to try to exploit his hand, right? Tony's going to go high. It's either Doug's going to sink him in, or Doug's going to go a little bit back too, and it's going to go to strap, and then it'll eventually go into a hook or a strap via the hook, hook via the strap. And I just like Doug. And Doug's like, no one's seen what Doug's been doing. He hasn't been out there. Doing tournaments, and I think that's not a good thing for his opponent. Not knowing that much about Doug, but knowing that he's fucking hungry and out there is not a good thing for his opponents. Not knowing these things is not good.
His last match was Valentine, right?
Yeah.
How did that go?
Didn't Valentine take his hand, both arms?
Valentine was at the tournament, and I got to feel Valentine a little bit. I don't know how. I don't think comparing that really says anything.
But I think
Valentine lost to Bill Logston and Bill Ballinger.
His Arnold's performance isn't a good indicator of his strength.
Hey guys, I got a boogie. I gotta go to work. We started a bit late and I'm running late. But continue the show. Have a great time. Paul, thanks for coming on. Joe, congratulations on 7th place again. Herm, we'll see you next week.
Hey, thanks, Chris. That means the world to me, man.
Later, guys.
Gobby, I got you picked against the Australians. Just want to let you know that. Let me down.
So why isn't Valentine's performance at the Arnold a good representation of his strength? I want to know that.
He injured himself during the match with Doug.
Oh, okay. Because I was like, I want to know why. Because if he's not injured, dude, Tony smokes Doug. Smokes him. But I didn't know Valentine was injured. But, dude, and that's not a slight on anyone, but Tony's – he's going to have too much hand, man. It's way too much.
Doug's hand?
Oh God, yeah.
Really?
I'll take any bet against that right now. Seeing from what I've seen Tony do with Steve Rao, both arms essentially. It doesn't really matter because is it right arm with Doug or is it only right arm this year?
Right arm.
Okay. I don't know. I think the hand goes back. Tony outlasts him, and I go Tony 3-1. Yep. It's going to be like that.
Yeah, I just can't see Tony taking his hand. And, I mean, Tony taking Steve Rao's hand is not like a huge –
I'm just going on just the most recent match that I've seen. I'm not – because if I wanted to, like, look back at stuff, you could cherry pick different matches and styles. I'm just saying
Steve's always had a hand issue, and Steve is probably – I think he's coming off an elbow injury, if I'm not mistaken. So he's not the WAF silver medalist Steve Rao that we all remember. But
yeah, he's been out of it for quite a while, hasn't he? I think he just kind of started.
He got hurt, and then he took some time off, it seems. But so what's your number, Paul? What's your call?
I'm rooting for Doug. I mean, I think it's going to wind up if he keeps his hand early. I think he can possibly sweep, and I also don't think Doug is looking to. I don't think Doug's going in there to put on a good show. I think Doug's going in there to win. So right. I think if he keeps his hand, he can potentially 3-0. But I'm basing that off of the weight cut being an advantageous thing for Doug. I don't know 100% where he's at, but you got to think he's pretty healthy too. So,
yeah. So I think Doug goes.
Go ahead.
I think Doug goes 3-0. I think it goes to the hook. And contrary to Gobby, I don't think Tony is that versatile. If he hooks, it's like an outside pronating style hook. I don't think he can go supinated arm to arm with Doug at all.
No, right. I agree. I do agree with that. I just don't think it's going to go there. I don't.
And so I think it's going to be either way. I'm going Doug 3-0 in the hook. And if Tony gets his hand,
still 3-0.
It's still 3-0, but for Tony, because once Tony gets your hand, it's going to be hard to keep it the rest of the match. So I think it's going to be a sweep either way.
They're both bigger guys, but I see Doug as such a larger puller. You know what I mean? Like, even though he can get way down there in weight, I see him as a bigger, stronger dude. And I know Tony's big and everything, but I feel like
Tony's not super tall, dude. You got to remember, Tony.
Right.
He's not that tall, but he's big. He's wide.
Right.
Yeah. But, I mean, Doug's bigger than me. I've got some pretty good pictures on my Facebook. Maybe I'll share it on our Armhub page. Doug's a lot bigger than me, man.
It's freaking huge. And, his numbers, when you start talking about numbers, are ridiculous. When I first saw him early on at my first nationals, I mean, he was drawn completely out, all the water out and everything. And he still, even at that time for 76s, he looked huge. And I think that day Doug could have won the 76s, the 98s, and probably the 42s.
Yeah,
I don't think
if he crushes Tony, I'll be the first one to be like, dude, way off. But I don't know, man. If you lose your hand against Tony, most people have really bad days.
Right.
Yeah. Next match, Jordan Sill and Storm Chellino. What do you think, Paul? Have you pulled either of them?
I have not pulled Jordan. I train with Storm pretty regularly, so I'll be going up Sunday. We're going to start prepping him for Jordan. I think the biggest factor in this is going to be weight, and can Storm get it on? Storm's under 210 walk around, but he's another guy where his weight room numbers, and he doesn't post a lot, and he watches everything on social media, but he doesn't participate a whole lot. But this guy has freakish gym numbers. And he's got freakish hand strength, just silly stuff that I can't even come close to doing. But I think the weight is going to be a big factor, and I think that Storm needs to bulk up, and he needs to carb up, and he needs to get as big as he possibly can, and kind of cut to that 210 catch weight. Normally these middle weights are 205 catch weights, but Jordan's a little bit bigger. So
I was told Jordan's like 205 or something like that.
He pulled 205 at California States, but I'm sure
he cut the number confirmed that they're pulling at, Paul?
Yeah, 210.
Oh.
Yep. And I don't think, and the way Storm said to me was, it wasn't necessarily an agreed upon thing. It was just kind of told to him. So
they're Jordan big time.
Right. They're definitely going for these matches kind of like with like the tweener weight classes and everything now. So I wouldn't be surprised, depending on, how Rob does, if we don't eventually see Rob pulling somebody who's a true heavy. Like I could see that coming with WAL at some point. But
Yeah.
Rob
versus Todd.
Yeah, that's I think the match that's the match I want to see.
I think everyone wants to see it eventually again. I mean, who doesn't?
Right.
Yeah. But what's your call, Paul? Home cooking?
I'm gonna take Storm. We're gonna train together, pretty dedicated to try and get him where he needs to be. And I think Storm's hand favors. I think at the lighter weight, Storm's hand would be favorable for him. I think if Jordan chooses to do the same thing that he did with Rob, which means, not get to the straps, I think Storm can pin him outside of the straps, just with a better hand. And then the real question is, if they do go to the straps, how much can Storm really gain on the setup? He's probably the smartest arm wrestler that I've trained with, as far as setting up differently and really navigating the straps and gaining an advantage. And Jordan largely seems to be like a guy that kind of puts his elbow down and pulls. I know I'm similar to that. And I think that the angle game and game a little bit before the go is something that Storm and Sam and those guys that they work together are so good at. And I feel like that's going to come into play. And that's really what I'm hinging my prediction on. I think it's going to be 3-1.
What do you think, Joe?
I think it's going to – my prediction's based upon weight, now that I know it's 210. In my opinion, that definitely favors Jordan, because I think he can potentially be bigger and cut down. So my prediction is going to go 3-2 for Storm to win. And I think it's going to come down to the strap is going to win the match for Storm. Like, I think it's going to go to the strap, and I think they're both going to be pronating so hard that somebody ends up using the strap for not really like a king's move, but kind of sort of what happened with Storm and Justin. Just it's going to be a little different. Like, the strap's going to get really tight and their wrists are going to be kind of, I don't know, it's going to be weird, but I definitely think it's going to come down to the strap. And the question is WAL going to use the fair strap? Otherwise, all of these predictions are shit, really, right? I mean, whoever gets the buckle is going to have the monster advantage.
They use the fair strap.
Every time? Guaranteed, though?
Yeah. They don't
okay.
That strap bites so much different, though. And the strap's so harsh in general. And that's, I think,
like
sometimes –
what, 3/4 of an inch wide? It's just ridiculous.
No, it's half inch.
It's half inch?
Yeah, they upped the size. It used to be 3/4, I believe. They upped it. But you wind up getting that thing low on both pullers' arms, and when back pressure is applied, it feels so much different than other straps.
It's like hard, right? It's not even like soft.
It's harsh. It's harsh. It's real harsh. And I think that does come into play in a lot of these matches. And they're still using the metal buckle. So if you wind up, you can get like nerve damage from it. It's crazy.
Yeah. I don't understand how a league that's so focused on Devon has such a strap.
That's a great question.
But are they focused on Devon anymore, Herman?
He's made a lot of these rules, man.
He has.
So I'm going to go Sill 3-1. And what I really want to know is Super Jordan going to show up, or the other Jordan's going to show up? Because, there are times where Jordan seems kind of like a middle of the pack, 200-pound guy. And there are times where he beats Ron Bath and, he beats all these guys, So kind of like John said on the Pound for Pound show, Jordan's kind of hot or cold. But if he shows up hot, I think he beats Storm pretty easy. Yeah. Okay. So that's WAL 501. You guys want to talk training?
Sure. We can talk training for a little bit. I got practice starting here. They haven't showed up yet, but I'll let you know when they get here.
All right. So let me let's get some questions from the audience. I'll send a request out.
I wanted to. Too bad Gobby had to go. I kind of wanted to pick you guys' brain and play a little devil's advocate as far as the too many tournament thing, because I agree. I agree with a lot of what you guys say. I just have like a differing belief on the too many tournaments and catering.
Man. Hey, Paul, both of those guys don't like the idea of a lot of tournaments.
So Paul, what's your stance? What do you think about tournaments currently in the United States?
So I guess I'm coming strictly from my perspective, which means somebody who's just got his third year in. So had there not been arm wrestling local to me, I would have never, found it, number one. And number two, because beyond 2 hours, if you don't know anything about arm wrestling, you're not going to drive. There's nobody's just going to get in their car, never having put their elbow on the table, putting themselves out there against another man in front of a crowd of people and having his manhood questioned when he loses. You're not going to drive 6 hours having never done that before. But if they're close and local, and people are posting them out there and they're getting on the media and everything, they might not be the best tournament, but they might be the best tournament for that person. So, and I know there's one league that always comes up, and I'm not defending that league at all.
Hey, so did you get started at a practice or did you go straight to a tournament? Like you discovered a tournament and showed up?
I went straight to the tournament. Nitro, Tom Nitro Simcoe, everybody hates him. He runs really crappy tournaments that they didn't used to be. He's got like 100 tournaments in the Scranton, Pittston area. He's like my guy now. He's crazy, but he would be exactly what you would talk about when you would say, like, this is the tournament we shouldn't have. You might have 40, 50 entries. So I found it online and just went and pulled. And then I lost to a couple pros and questioned myself. Even I still finished third pro, but I questioned myself. And then I went home. I still didn't find a practice. And I went to a Winter Blast tournament hosted by Sue Fisher, which was a much bigger tournament, and entered the amateurs and won that. And at that point, that was when I found a practice. So it took me like those two experiences and one at a really, really crappy tournament to kind of move forward. And I don't know. I mean, had I gone to that Winter Blast tournament first by myself and just showed up, I might have got scared away. So yeah. I think there's a time and a place for it. Like when we talk about that one league, there's major issues with that, I think, for sure. And I don't think it comes from a bad place. I think it comes from a lack of business savvy in general. But I think, and we've hosted a bunch of tournaments, and the one that we have coming up on the 30th is going to be really, really big. Like we're expecting probably 225 entries. And that's a far cry from the first one we hosted. But I will say what we always try and do is we try and really cater to the amateur pullers. I have a lot of amateur guys around here, and I'm of the belief that these guys are really the ones that fund the sport in a way. There's a lot of guys that are amateur pullers and are getting their sea legs and getting ready to be pros. And then there's a lot of other guys who are never going to be pros, don't want to be pros. But those are the guys that pay the entry fees, and those are the guys that come and make the brackets deeper. And even if 1 out of every 5 of those guys goes on to be a really good pro, I think we're growing the sport. So I always try my best to really cater to those guys and make sure that they enjoy the tournament, because I think those are the guys. And then the kids are like the future of the sport. So we always try and highlight the kids, and we always try to have the kids, at least allow the opportunity for kids to pull. So but I understand you guys' perspective, because it's like, it's that trophy era where everybody gets a trophy. And I hate that. I think you should have to earn everything. But I also think there's levels.
Yeah. And they do it in powerlifting. They do it in fitness competitions. They just built so many classes so that everybody can win something. So yeah, I think we should have fewer tournaments, but I think even if you have a lot of them, it's all about the context and the understanding of what that tournament is.
Right.
You shouldn't be that amateur event is not a world championship, right? That's not really, that's not your goal, right? And I think that's what a lot of people mix up. They start looking at these things as if they are the equivalents of world titles or national titles or state championships, or they mean anything, and they actually just stop at that local tournament. You know what I mean? Right. They hit that hurdle and they go, okay, I'm good now, and they never get better. Because they can just win that trophy and they can talk about that with the PAF belt, PAF title belt, right?
Hey, now I got one.
Let's do some training questions. Let's see here. Paul, what's your favorite way to train pronation?
A towel on a pulley system and a loading pin with. I use a football belt, but people use a karate belt for sure. I think I do it a million different ways, a ton of different angles. I don't just come from the floor up. I set the pronation high. I've kind of gravitated towards using lock pronation and basically locking it the whole way out and having it hooked around my hand at this angle and trying to hold it until it opens up. I like the towel and I like the football belt. That's me personally. I've used the top roller and everything else, but the towel, having something in my hand that I can squeeze and hold on to, I think feels the most efficient to me.
Okay. I'll ask both of you this question. What's your favorite exercise for arm wrestling off the table?
Wrist wrench.
Me first.
Wrist wrench, every angle. I mean, that's my weak spot early on was hand and fingers, and I pretty much attribute different sizes of a wrist wrench and doing a ton of reps and heavy weight into securing up my hand. I think it took about 6 months before I really saw that my wrist wasn't going back anymore.
What size do you use?
I have all the way up to a 3-inch, but I have all the way down to like one and a half. So
that's
I have like,
or you had that one made at 1.5 inches.
I got Lucas Raymond one. That was the first one I got. I forget what the diameter on that is. It's kind of standard. Then I have a double Lucas Raymond one. Then I have another one that my buddy made out of PVC, which is the bigger one. And then I have one that I got from Andre. I can't even say his last name. The Russian dude from Florida, not Artem, Andre Sharkinsky or something. And that's the narrow one. It's real nice. It's made out of like polished steel, and it's got knurling and everything. And that's the one I like to use for heavyweight. Less fingers, more wrist.
What about you, Erlich?
I could say the same thing because I really do like using a rolling handle like that, but probably going to have to go with right now in my training. I made a replica. It's not quite exactly to the Mazurenko eccentric handle. I did order those, and they should be on their way soon. So, but it's like essentially, if I had it, it would be the eccentric handle, like finger pressure.
What about you, Herm?
Man, I don't know. I really don't. Maybe anything on the gymnastics rings.
Really?
Yeah.
Pull-ups?
Pull-ups. Grip? Yeah, I do false grip, normal grip, dips, pull-ups.
Do you do body weight like back pressure and side pressure with them at all?
No, I mean like just straight gymnastic stuff. So I'll do levers or modified levers. I mean, I've been up to 260 in the last year, so it's only so much you're going to do on the rings. But I do modified versions of gymnastics movements on the rings.
Do you have those in your house, Herman?
Yeah, it's hooked up to a squat stand, like to the pull-up bar.
Right.
And I do some weighted. I have some weighted vests that I also use on the rings.
I'd be interested to see some of that stuff. I have rings in my gym. I got several sets. But I'm not doing anything advanced with them. I'll do weighted pull-ups. I'll do dips. I'll do flies, things like that. But I've never really used them for like anything crazy arm wrestling specific.
Yeah, and I haven't either. So if I see, like, again, I'll try to do levers. I'll try to do sort of intermediate movements where you'd be working up to an iron cross or something like that.
Right.
But I typically don't spend that much time that consistently to really make progress. And I'm also, again, limited by weight.
Right.
Yeah. but a lot of stuff, feet off the floor. I'm not really using them like TRX straps, you know, where your feet are on the floor and you're leaning, trying to use, it's full weight.
Right.
I got practice starting, Herman, so I'm gonna roll out. But It's been awesome. Thanks for coming on, Paul. It was great seeing you again at the Arnold. Congrats again, and we'll see you guys later.
Later, Joe.
Later, man.
Paul, you got time?
Yeah.
All right, we'll give you some more questions. CJ Twine asked, who are your favorite pullers to watch?
To watch?
Yeah.
I mean, Devon's always entertaining, of course. But I'm a big Tim Bresnan fan. I like his style. He's kind of the guy that I started practicing with and everything. I always enjoy watching him overseas. Yeah.
Now, is that who you watch to study from like a technical standpoint?
What's that?
Is that who you watch to study? Like when you're trying to look for how to pull or how I need to pull?
If I'm looking from a technical standpoint, obviously John, his transitions from different moves are incredible, and his calmness in matches. I mean, he's not the most flamboyant arm wrestler, you know, but his smoothness throughout transitions is crazy. So I like to watch John. I mean, he's not quite as active, so you know, and I always enjoy Sam in the lighter weight classes too. His versatility and his ability to adjust against different arm wrestlers is always entertaining to me.
Yeah, no, he's pretty awesome. I got a question from the Beaver King, the French Arm Wrestling King. He asked if you believe in pumping beaver.
Pumping beaver? I believe 100%. Tell the Beaver King, hey, Beaver King, I'm behind you, buddy. You got Juji. I'm behind you. I believe in your functional training. Long live the king.
And I had a question from Dalton Bumgartner asking, how do we train pronation or down pressure in a hook? Which is funny because I think Dalton could beat both of us in a hook. I don't know if you know Dalton.
Yeah, I know. He's a 54, 43 guy. I think I met him one time. He's a stud.
Yeah, dude's a beast.
Right? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Herman, you go ahead, because I know how I do it, and I showed the tool that I use, and Gobby shit on me. So
yeah, I don't know if I don't really train pronation in the hook or down pressure. So yeah. So maybe I just train it on the table.
Yeah, I used the Lucas Ray. I found a video a long time ago in one of Devon's crazy YouTube archive videos. I don't know, it might have been from 10 years ago, where he had an L-shaped tool, which was basically a pipe or a PVC pipe with a little L coming out of it, and he was using it in a tight fashion to pronate down. So I make sure I use that thing for about 4 to 6 sets every week. It challenges my fingers, and it's just such a weird, different feeling for pronation. I also try and do like I like to use a sledgehammer for like kickbacks, and I try and hit an angle where I'm actually bringing the hammer this way.
Mm-hmm.
Where I'll choke up on it. I don't know. I do so many different things that I don't necessarily know what works. I just try and do everything and then hope to get a little bit better. So I can't really gauge. I've never really cycled through different exercises.
Now on that L bracket exercise, I mean, you can't go too heavy with that, right?
Like nothing, like almost nothing. Like, I mean, I have real weight cables, and I'll put 10, 15 pounds on and do a ton of reps until my hand tires out. The most I ever will go is maybe 25 pounds, and I'm straining so hard just to hold it.
Yeah, I usually see things like that, and I go, man, I'm probably going to go heavy. I'm probably going to hurt myself. Let me not do that.
Right. I feel like anytime I'm pronating with like a solid thing, whether it be a hammer or, you know, even the top roller or this thing, I feel like if I go heavy, I get crazy wrist pain. So that's part of the reason why a majority of my pronation comes through like a cloth towel or belt, because I for whatever reason, it alleviates that wrist pain.
Yeah. CJ asked, who do you want to have a super match with?
Oh, I don't know. Like I said, I'm only transitioning to the super match thing now. I'm just trying to wrap my mind around it. I mean, I wouldn't mind pulling pretty much anybody in that middleweight class.
Well, I assume you want to pull Craig again.
Yeah, I would like to pull Craig again. I think Craig's an awesome dude, but anytime you lose to somebody, you kind of want to get back, and at least prove that you've improved a little bit.
Is there another loss you need to avenge?
Well, no, you
haven't lost that much.
No, lost for sure. I mean, Paul Talbot and I went 3-3, and I'd love to pull Paul again. I think Paul is like one of my favorite arm wrestlers out there. He's such a great dude. And it's not like one of those things where I would have any like added motivation to want to pull him. You know what I mean? Yeah. But just for the sake of kind of trying to finish that one a little bit better. But I mean, I don't know. I'll pull whoever. Like I said, I'm really trying to transition to the super match thing. I'm still not, my IQ as far as arm wrestling goes, like I understand the sport, but when it comes to sometimes, in the setup and in the match, I'm not 100% there yet. So I think my endurance can help me. It could help me in a 5-round format. But as far as adjustments and everything go, not sure how much that really favors me. So we'll see.
People are calling for me versus you.
Is that what CJ was building up to? CJ was setting up.
We've got Chuck Bardo down here.
Oh no,
Miguel Ortega. They're all calling for it.
Oh man, I would pull you. Well, that brings something up. So are you going to take Devon up on the WAL offer thing?
I think that ship sailed. I mean, their season kind of started already.
They do.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. But I mean, I told Devon, I said, yeah, you get me something that works and it's not going to hinder my plans. I have no problem doing it. I mean, especially if the matches are at 210. I mean, I'm 220 right now, so I mean. That's
down to good. Are you? Yeah. What are you planning on pulling next? Like what weight class? What tournament?
So I'll tell you. I guess my next 12 months plan was going to be do the Pan American Championships at 220. Right. Walk in at 220.
Walk in, no cut.
Yeah. Do Zloty. Walk in at 209.
Is there strategy for you walking in at this weight? You feel better walking in at your weight or cutting?
No, I need to break the habit of extreme dieting and extreme rebounding. So I was just going to slow cut my way down to a manageable weight, get rid of the 250, 260 peaks every year and the 50-pound cuts. So this will be the first year, I think, since 2014 that I'm not over 230. Actually, not hitting 250. So really, it's about just resetting myself and getting out of the bad habits. So
what about comparison? Let's say you're doing a 10-pound water cut. Do you feel better at your walk-in weight or after doing that 10-pound water cut and pulling a little heavier?
I don't know. Right. So, yeah, I mean, honestly, I'd probably be stronger if I did the water cut and just came in heavier. But like I said, I really wanted a year where I didn't do any sort of cutting per se. Right. And then I could reassess. But so Pan American Championships in May at 220, Zloty at 209, walk-in weight, and then possibly Pan American Championships in 2020 at 198.
Right.
That was the original plan, but I think I'm already banned from Pan Americans because it's a WAF event and I'm on the URPA rankings. So
you can't go?
Technically, I don't think I can. Now, will the Costa Ricans care? Will the Costa Ricans ban me? I don't think so, but it's kind of risky. So I need to ask a question.
What do you know about that tournament? Like, what do we have to expect? Because I'm going to go to that too.
It's probably going to be kind of like a multinational, but still a local event.
Okay. So right. as it compares to our nationals, what do you think?
It depends on your class, but it could be easier. It could be more difficult. Okay. But what I was expecting was sort of the Western equivalent of the European Arm Wrestling Championships.
Okay.
But my understanding is that it's not going to be that big or that well produced, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a first run. Whereas the Europeans, it's full blown, great production, super talent level, high participation from the countries, and there's drug testing. that's not really a seller, but I know that they're following the WAF regulations. I don't think this is going to be to the standard of a European Arm Wrestling Championship.
Right.
So even with all that said, I would still want to go from a exposure thing, from a seeing new places thing, from meeting new people type of perspective. I think it's a hell of an event to go to, right? You'll meet plenty of Brazilians and Colombians and Mexicans and just other people that you'll never get to really meet at U.S. events or even European events. And
that's kind of my motivation, because being that Worlds falls in football season, and which kills, and that's like priority number one, just because of the kids. So I don't see myself going to Worlds until I stop coaching, if I stop coaching. So it seems to me like be an opportunity to get out of country, see what some other countries, bring to the table, and be able to represent the United States, even if it's on a smaller scale. So that was kind of me. I really want to support Team USA. I really want to support WAF. Like, I want to support everybody. It's just really like you can only be in so many places at once.
Correct. So I want to go, but I don't want to go and then find out I'm banned when I get there.
Well, they better pay for your plane ticket if they do that.
Yeah, but judging based on what's starting to happen with some of the pullers in Hungary, they're getting banned for being on the URPA rankings. So if that logic is consistent, what crossed my mind today is that I need to go to the URPA website, look at everybody on the list, and assume that they're banned. I mean, that's how they're handling this. So,
have you cross-checked that with Simon Barashoa yet?
No, he's been out of the country, and Simon tends to respond to my questions and stuff like that, but he also responds in a very lengthy way that may or may not directly address the questions, right? And I think in his position, I don't know if he even has a clear answer on that, right? So as the USAF president, he may be able to say that he won't ban me from nationals, or he'll let me pull nationals, but I don't know if what say he has for the Pan American Championships, because it's not USAF doing it.
What do you think all this WAF stuff going on, all this nonsense about banning and everything else, what impact, if any, do you think that's going to have on this coming Worlds? And do you think it's going to maintain this way, or is somebody going to eventually fold their cards?
Well, I wasn't around when this happened, but there used to be 2 Worlds, right? 2 WAF Worlds, and that was based on some disagreement, probably not unlike what's going on now. So yeah, this could have a huge impact. For instance, they canceled Worlds in Poland, which is where it was supposed to be, and they moved it to Romania. Right. So it's kind of early. I don't know if anyone's bought tickets, but if that happened, that's going to screw some people up. I think Igor said he's still going to host Worlds in Poland. So we may be looking at 2 Worlds already. That's going to be interesting. The fact that WAF is sort of claiming ownership of athletes that WAF does not pay, right? This is rubbing people the wrong way. I mean, this is somewhat like the WAL situation, right? And what I've been talking about. You telling me that I can't do something when you don't pay me for my freedoms. So just reading some of the stuff in the Facebook groups, there are some elite athletes that compete at WAF annually that, share the same sort of logic that I have. They don't own the athletes. They don't have the right to tell them what to do, especially when they're not compensated. So I think it will impact Worlds. Does that mean it won't happen? No. Does that mean you won't have as many of the top guys there? Yeah, that's very possible. Now, what's interesting is that maybe that means I need to go to Worlds and get an easier world title. Maybe I have a chance at getting a medal, right?
Now you sound like one of them trophy chasers now.
Exactly.
Trophy?
Yeah, but I mean, I'm not going to go, and you know it. So, yeah, it's going to affect Worlds. Now, it doesn't affect me because I don't go, but if I was planning on going, yeah, maybe my medal wouldn't be worth as much.
Right.
Or you show up and maybe it's canceled. I don't know, but I wouldn't. it'd be hard for me to buy a ticket.
Right.
And the time off work and the hotels and all that stuff, given the drama that's going on.
Right. Dilutes the whole thing and divides no good. I'm real interested to know what the actual cause of this, because it's clearly provoked by something, something personal or something that happened. But there's a lot of people from a lot of countries, and the more I talk to international pullers, Worlds is like their Super Bowl, and they have internationally, it seems like a similar scenario to what you guys are kind of calling for, where they might only pull 2 or 3 large tournaments a year. So, if one of theirs is compromised, that's the end of the world for them.
Correct.
Over here, you can go, every weekend you can arm wrestle if you want. So
yeah, I think you're going to see it's going to be a paradigm shift possibly, where a lot of these guys say, okay, Igor's ramping PAL up. Maybe it's going to be bigger. Maybe there's more opportunities, and maybe these guys go pro.
Right.
So we'll see what happens, but it's kind of a nasty situation. Things aren't really clear. People send letters out, and then you see different discussions from different people all across Facebook, and nothing's really organized. So you never know what's the latest bit of information or what's the most accurate bit of information. But as I told or commented on one of Jody Williams' posts, it doesn't really affect us because we really don't participate.
Right.
But I don't know. We'll see.
Why do you think we don't participate? Why do you think why do you think our athletes in the United States don't seem to value a world title like they probably used to? I don't know your answer, but
I think drug testing is a huge part of it. And I'm not saying that we do drugs and the rest of the world doesn't.
Right.
I don't know if our drug use is as thorough or as I don't know the right word is. I don't know if we're on top of our game enough to supplement sufficiently, clean up, and then pass the test, right? I think those guys may have their things dialed down a little bit better than we do. I think part of it is a fear that we can't compete.
Right.
And that's for everybody, but I think that's part of it for some people. You don't want to go and lose. The weakness of nationals is a large part of it, and that's due to the fact that we've had anywhere from 3 to 6 nationals in a single year, and the fact that nationals doesn't pay, right? So right now, if I want to compete at a world level, I have 2 options. I have Zloty, and I have the WAF World Championships. So for me, I can go to Zloty on one plane ticket,
right?
1 week off work, and a week of very cheap hotels in Poland.
Right.
No qualifier. I just show up.
Right.
Same time every year, same place every year. With Worlds, you need a plane ticket for nationals, which could be as much as the plane ticket to Poland if the nationals is in a rural area, which it tends to be. Week of hotel, week off work. Odds are you're going to have to cut to your weight class. Not to mention the fact that the national itself doesn't have the value, right, to make you want to go.
Right.
Right. If you go to nationals, Paul, you might just sweep your class. There may not be a Herman in your class or a Rob in your class or a Craig in your class. So that national itself had no value. You spent all that money just to qualify. And maybe there's 3 people in your class. And you win, you're a national champion, and everyone's going to say, but Herman, Rob, Todd, Craig weren't there.
And then you come home, you throw your medal in a box.
Another week off work. You have to use the world's host hotel, which is like way high. When I could have stayed in a shack offsite. So those costs add up. So you factor in all of those things, and then you get a lot of people, or you get a huge barrier for people's participation.
Right.
So I think that's it. And there's probably other factors that come into play, such as if you only have so much time off work, you can go to WAF and nationals, or you can do 2 or 3 WAL events and make some money.
Right. And that was one of the things that I kind of wanted to bring up. Like, do you think that leagues like WAL and UAL are detracting, from our, the United States really wanting to go and win a world title? Or, and I'm not saying that that's necessarily a bad thing. I mean, I think if you have the ability to make money arm wrestling in your own country, it's not that, I don't think necessarily that that WAF is the end all be all, I think. And I mean, I don't know completely. I haven't 100% made my opinion up on it. I talked to Travis about it, and he always says it's the world's biggest amateur event. But Travis says that based off of, not making significant money. So he looks at amateur based on, being able to bring money in. And you can't really argue that. I personally, money is not a drive for me, really. I mean, I'm not opposed to making money arm wrestling, but that's not a drive for me. And I feel like a lot of times from the things you say, you're similar. Money's a bonus, but.
Yeah. So again, I'm not going to bash the WL guys either. I think making money's cool. But it definitely is a deterrent. You can only compete so much at a high level. If you're going to get paid, most guys are going to take that option. And then furthermore, if you have WAL, and let's say you're the champion here, it's hard for you to go to WAF and then possibly get a fifth.
Right.
Right. How do you hold a world title in this league, but you got fifth at the WAF World Championships, right?
Right. And that brings me in. Paul Talbot's going, and I think he's going to Worlds this year. He's obviously got to go qualify at Nationals and everything. And I think he's pulling 87 or 76. And my hat's off to him for doing that, because, I mean, how many of the WAL guys have we seen go ahead and do that since they've been a WAL guy,
Correct.
And he's, from talking to him, this is his primary focus. He was like, basically, if I get a WAL match, I'm not going to build my training around the WAL match, is kind of what he gave off. Like, I got to make this weight for Worlds, and that's going to be what it is.
Yeah,
so,
no, that's awesome. I mean, I wish him the best. I mean, I really hope he does well.
He's a stud for doing that. I think he has the ability to, for sure. So, I mean, obviously you've competed at that world level and I haven't, so I don't really know, but I know he's especially his left is incredible.
Yeah. All right, Paul, I think this is probably a good point to wrap it up. I appreciate your time. I'm sure we'll have you back on, maybe after your a possible WAL match this year or something.
We'll see. Lord willing. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you. You guys are doing. I love the show. I like the shit because you guys say what nobody else says. You say what I won't say, but I probably might be thinking. So that's all for you.
Yeah, I'll just start making posts and just say Paul posted it through the Armhub page.
There you go.
Yeah. Later, man.
All right, brother.